Hey everyone, welcome to your daily update for SOL and BTC. So we've had, I guess this is probably what, dump day 3 now. We've had a decent move down and a whole bunch of liquidations. Yesterday was the first day that we were sort of showing some signs of reversal, and we have moved back up a wee bit from where we went down, but we're still just spending too much time down in the lows. And as you can see from the 1 day liquidity chart, it's already now stacked more to the downside than it is to the upside. So, everyone just keeps buying the dip, and if everyone just keeps buying the dip, then there's probably just going to be another dip, and eventually when the bags are packed, they'll take off, but it it will probably come very quickly. Now, there's a couple of ways they might do that, tomorrow after we close today. Um, but there's also, just money sitting there now, so why not grab it anyway if you're going to go? So, yeah, I've never sort of been this on the fence about where I think price is going to go, because we really do look like we are in a high time frame rollover. So some of the really high time frames are basically failing to move to trend, and they look like they're going to correct. And this is pretty much what the 2021 top looked like, and it, I personally would have thought another push. I still think we probably will have another push, but the charts are starting to say we're not going to have one. So it's you probably want to be pretty careful at the moment. So as far as the levels, 1 day on BTC, could easily go down and retest the 109, 110 area. It's still not really finding a reason to go above 114, 115, and we have rejection hold levels in that 115 area that could potentially send us down to 105. So I would be pretty wary of whatever pump might come if it does come. And as far as SOL goes, it's sort of showing liquidity up there at about 217, but this entire move so far, we have not gone back to resistance as you typically would. We've been creating certain types of structure that allows them to kind of escalate the dump and not actually have any kind of relief rallies, which is part and parcel with them trying to ensure that they actually trap those longs, which make sure that those longs don't get a chance to close their position. They generate structure, and then they just propel straight down off it, and then get everybody underwater, and then go and basically take them out. So unfortunately, if they do that again, then well, that could mean we just literally dump after we go into tomorrow. We may even dump before we go in tomorrow. And what we're really looking for is them to start creating some positive structure to the upside and stop creating resistance. And at this stage, it looked like they were going to do that yesterday, but then within minutes of close, they basically created the resistance and went on the next dump very soon after. And today it looks like they've created resistance. They appear to be closing under it. I'm mildly bullish that they're doing that, because it sort of means they're trying to induce shorts. They have been inducing shorts since about the 204, 205 levels, but there's still a lot of things just sitting there waiting just to fall off a cliff, basically. So now, if we consider SOL liquidity, it could easily take a run down to that 200 level or that 205 level again for a double bottom. I actually think that's probably the most bullish dip out of everything that's there, unfortunately. If we look at 7 days, 7-day liquidity pretty much lining up the same, and it's the first time frame where it shows a little bit more of a reason to go up, but it's still not really showing a lot of a reason to go past the sort of 220s or 230 at this stage. And on BTC, it's not really showing much of a reason to go past 118. And if we go to the 30-day, the 30-day unfortunately still looks bullish on BTC. It's got longs all the way down to those 105s, and there are so many things that they could reject off to get to 105 now. It's whether they even bother to go up and take, when you look at this balance, Do they even bother going up to take 114 before they bother to, before they go down and take 105? Don't know. And if we do go down to 105, do they come back quickly, or do they hang around there and everyone buys the dip, and then do they go to 102? And that's kind of that's the difference really between a correction and a sustained downtrend and a liquidity grab. And this is going on too long to really represent a liquidity grab. It's definitely some kind of correction, and the question is just how far does it go. 30-day liquidity, if they were to do a sweep down for that on SOL, then that would take you down to the 192 numbers. There is a chart literally right now that can take us from 217 down to 191. So it's the chart's there, the structure's there, and the liquidity's there, and they aren't moving back up quick enough, and that implies that they do not care whether you take a long. In fact, they want you to, because if you buy the dip and then they dip again and get you trapped, then it's just on and on it goes. So I still think it's a good area to be building something, but it's not a good area to be putting in your whole bag, that's for sure. It just really seems like there's going to be more downside at this stage. So let's have a bit of a look from the other direction. So the charts are really messed up when it comes to dominance. We've sort of been held under a dominance we've been held under a market cap downtrend, which really just means that everything's in rotation. And based on that, we started to get a dominance rejection yesterday, which allowed SOL to sort of creep back up above some levels. But that rejection could reverse, and then it can travel up and down, because effectively it's a weekly or a daily level rejection, so it can kind of go up and down, up and down, up and down. So at this stage, we're really looking at BTC to come up and try to grab this 114 liquidity. It really should. I sit here and go, it really should. Also, we have a key level up here at about 115,600, which could be a rejection level. So if we get up to these levels, we may get SOL out of that 216 area that it's sort of trapped under, or has been trapped under. But as you can see, everybody is piling in with longs. We've now got all that liquidity to the downside. If we look at this from the other direction, when we did this sweep, we quite literally took everything, and then the price starts gravitating up towards liquidity again, because anything they bought down here, they're going to want to sell into a position up there, and then people start longing. And as you can see, we've been downtrending on the low time frame since people started longing. Now, sometimes that does happen because they want to induce more shorts, and what that would mean is that downtrends like what you're seeing here, and then we get a spike up, and the spike up might come simply because BTC goes up, and that would also allow us to correct some of the rejection that's still in play on the SOLBTC chart. So for BTC to go up and do a liquidity grab to those higher levels means SOL could lag behind it but fix the BTC SOL imbalance, and then when that imbalance finds support, SOL could then sort of put its rocket boots on and run up faster than what BTC is to try and catch up. So it is possible that is the game plan, and it is possible that this liquidity does get left behind. But now if we have a look at the charts, let's just kind of see what levels are actually important today, really. So SOLBTC Strength on the daily. We haven't actually hit the daily support, so this is interesting. What we're bouncing off here is actually a 4-hour support, and which isn't on this chart, but I've been watching, and so the 4-hour support's probably not going to get back up above this trend. But the daily trend itself is trying to pull the candle back up over the next 2 hours. So it could happen in the last 10 minutes, or it could not happen. Now, if it doesn't happen, what we then have is we have a candle that has basically come from the top side of a it's from the top side of some kind of lower time frame range in that single candle. It's from the top side of the higher time frame trend, and it may come up to do a retest. Now, if it does that, that would give us a temporary pump in SOL strength over BTC, but probably lead into a rejection. It could come up to any of these levels, so you've pretty much got really older time frame origin level that's running through here, and that's around 18958. You've got some other lower time frame levels sort of around that 19012, and then the main one would be that we are hard closing back under the break level of 19524. So that could be almost a topside target. It would be quite bullish if it came all the way up here to 20015 and retested the hard close range from above. But we hard closed that one yesterday, and it still hasn't gone up. So basically, this is pretty bearish. And the most bearish scenario that could play out is that simply we open the next candle and we just drop. We just come down to the hold here at 18380. Now at 18380, it's a very small hold level, size wise, candle wise. It would create a bounce, but it could, based on its minimum obligation, be a very, very small bounce. Like it doesn't really have to do much more of a retracement. So this is like that hype trade we took yesterday or the day before. It's when the price enters this area, it should bounce back up, but it doesn't have to go anything further than that, and that's what hype ended up doing. It completed the move, and then it's rolled over and gone lower since. So it never even went back up to trends or anything like that. It just basically did its minimum thing and then went for a dive. So SOL could do the same thing because it is effectively opening on the wrong side of the trend. It's a big drop down to the next daily support level. Thankfully, there are some other weekly levels that sort of actually they don't really come through too much in between, but we've got the weekly retest there at that 1770. This has got 4 days to go on it on the weekly, so really this could keep pushing down. It's all about whether it comes back up, in that 4 days and gets back above these range trends. If it doesn't, we're probably going to reject off the backside of these trends, and we're just going to keep going down, and that just means the correction just keeps on going. And let's face it, what is a bear market? A really long sustained correction. So just this is all the stuff that was happening 2021 top, so just be aware. Okay, the monthly rejection from trend still in play. That's actually that 4-hour level that created that little boost that we had yesterday. But still this monthly down pressure is going to exist until we find some kind of monthly support, and the first monthly support is down here at around 18075. So everything here is still implying that we need to see further weakness from SOL, but like I say, it can be because Bitcoin takes off to the upside and SOL stays flat, in which case you don't necessarily see a lower price on SOL, but you just see this candle come down here to actually find this and then hopefully give us a bounce. So the full blown move here would be all the way back down to that 1.5 area, but it shouldn't be able to get there because of these trends that are coming through in the 1.6s to 1.17s. So that's how that's looking. So it's still pretty bearish, but hey, like I say, 10 minutes before close, they could move this thing. It's just how it works. So dominance of safety assets. It's rejected off the trend, but as you can see, it's creeping up. Now, if it closes above this 1-day origin level, it can just bust straight through that trend and go up and test these upper levels, which means, once again, another big dump in altcoins. So it's in a really key area for the close today at this 65.8, 65.9. It's already creeping up, unfortunately. And sometimes these origin levels, they just pop before the candle even closes, which means you might see another massive dump even before you've seen this video. It's quite, what's happening here is very bearish. So this is our daily. Looking at our weekly, we're in a weekly trend rejection, but we also need to do a retest of these weekly levels up here at 66.1860, and we don't have a hold level until we get to that 66.89. So we can power all the way up to there, and once again you'll see some massive dump come in the alts if that happens. And the monthly is trying to, and the closer we get to the end of the close, it's going to try to come back up to reclaim this trend. Once again, it's not looking very good. This is definitely, not the kind of stuff you want to be seeing if you're thinking about, alt season, that's for sure. And it's just important to point out, alt season started all the way up here in June, and we've been in it for quite a long time, and all of our high time frame support is down here, and this is starting to move back up because of it. So just yeah, if anyone's screaming about alt season starting now, just yeah, don't get suckered, just play it very carefully. Okay, looking at totals. So totals, and this is the one thing that is still giving us a wee bit of hope, totals is creating a hold level. So we might see shifts in strength between assets. We might see shifts in dominance between safety assets and altcoins. But this is trying to push up as far as the total overall market cap of risk assets, including Bitcoin. So if we do get a close up here at this level, then we will create a couple of things. So we're going to create a hold level here at 349.9. We're going to create a downtrend. So we're talking about, good and bad really. But a hold level can break a downtrend. There would potentially be an initial rejection down to the hold level. The trend might break the hold level. That's going to be bearish. But it's more likely, because it's bounced off support, that it is going to break the downtrend. It might just take a couple of days to do it. So, and then if the overall market increases, although there is a lot of bearishness in the difference between which assets are strong and which assets are weak, and whether you've got money flow to stables and safety assets like Bitcoin. The thing about this chart is this chart does not include stables. So if this starts to go up, risk assets and Bitcoin will go up. Okay. And then if we look at it from the other direction, we're over the top side of the downtrend. If we close today over 3.6, then we create a hold level. Once again, we can bounce. We can hopefully come up to the 3.67 area and retest the backside of the range. And then it's kind of questionable as to whether we've tested this hold level up here, I think. I'd say we have. So based on that, if this range does not reject, then we can try to head up to this break level up here at 3.76. So yeah, a lot of the charts are really out of whack, and I think a big part of that is created by being in rotation at the same time as these tokens like Aster and those sort of things have been absolutely pumping. They really have created huge drain from other parts of the risk market, but which makes charting very hard. So, but yeah, if this bounces, we are okay. Right. And the weekly total market cap should be trying to pull back up above the trend. So that's also in line with a little bit of positivity. It's hopefully it gets there, and The only way this becomes a bullish market again is if we get back up over these 3.7 levels, because effectively what we are creating, if this closes like this in 4 days, is we're creating a weekly origin level up here at 3.78. Now, the first time we touch that, there is a high likelihood of a massive rejection. So we might get a push up into here and then a really big rejection. If it can close over the top of that though, then it's the opposite effect and you'll get a really big pump. So it's just what the good thing is, and we kind of call these breakout levels because although they are a really polarized level on the chart and they can create a massive dump, they also create the breakout of the entire range if the price closes above them. So yeah, we're getting some very key levels here, but also some very mixed messages. Now looking at BTC, so BTC is pushing into the back of the range trend. It's potentially going to create a hold level. So we want BTC to do one of two things. Finish the day over 112,607 at an absolute minimum. We do not want it to close lower than that. But really what we would like to see is it close over 113,779. If it does that, it's back inside the daily range trend, and then it should bounce off that range trend and try to target this hold up here at 115,578. And we could simply in that move, if SOL stays quite stuck in place, simply in that move we could actually correct the downside on the SOL BTC chart. So or at least get us to that daily support on the SOL BTC chart and then give SOL a chance to bounce. So those are the levels I'm watching. If in the next couple of hours this thing loses that hold level, then that's real insane bearish intent. They are purposely building no support and looking to dump. And then the range trend will probably reject. It'll probably try to attack the trend on the downside again, and then it will probably try to dump. If we close under the range trend, like say we close around the price we are now, and we do create the hold, there may still be a move between these two things. And effectively, if that happens, this becomes your wedge. And just like on the weekly, you're either going to have to break out of there or you're going to have to break out of there. It's going to have to be one or the other. So that's what we're seeing on the 1 day close. Now, if we look at the 3 day close, so the 3 day close is breaking the interior trend. So we'll just get rid of that off our chart. It's not breaking this second interior, and it has held the exterior. It's staying inside the older range trends. So as long as it closes basically where it is now, around that 113, 300, 113, 400 level, it's capable of bouncing. But just you can sort of see what they did in the last 3 day cycle. They created this hold, they closed just under it on the close of the day, and then tap, reject, dump. That's this dump's been coming for ever since this basically. So what we're looking for today is a close above the trend. If by some miracle it pumps up, great, but it's probably not going to do that. What I would be thinking is that we're going to maybe close inside these trends, and we're going to have another push up to the resistance. When we hit it, what happens? Well, pretty good chance of rejection. The next 3 day candle really needs to close above the open of this one. So it has to close above that 115,191 level to create a hold level to then break these upper trends. Or it just has to get super bullish based on a higher time frame and just get above these trends and open a candle and go. But as it currently stands, there's not really a normal way to get out of this in the next 3 days, which is sort of why I think we're not out of the woods yet, because if they spend another 3 days at these lower levels, they might as well just go and take more liquidity from the downside, because people will just keep opening longs. If people do get bearish though, so if they act all bearish over the next 3 days and the shorts start to pile in, then what you got to be thinking is the opposite. You got to be thinking, okay, well, if they're acting bearish, but they're not actually creating bearish structure, and that's the key thing. Like, if you look on X and in Discords and all that kind of stuff over the last couple of weeks, people have been talking about alt season. They've been talking about new highs, etc., etc. You might have one or two tokens that are taking off, and the structure for the last few days / even a week or two has just been bearish structure. So if you ignore all the noise, everyone should see this stuff coming. You just ignore the noise, and you ignore the just complete bull posting or bear posting. You just basically look at the structure. When this closed under that and it was on the wrong side of the trend, it was going to dump. And where was our first support? Here. Conservative TP for a short would have been there. Anything below that, you don't know. Did it dive deeper? Yes, it wanted to grab liquidity, right? So if we looking ahead, it really does take time to get out of this kind of structure. So I wouldn't be thinking we're going to get out of there instantly unless something bigger really kicks in. So let's have a look at the 89-day close today. Given what I just said, which is you should ignore all the narratives and you should just look at the structure, this is very bad. Okay, so we know based on the previous timeframes, like even the 3-day, and we know based on the 1-day, we have those levels at 1,500. 115. Okay. Well, we also have a topside range trend that we are pulling back underneath, and that range trend is also 115,200. Now the target for that range trend is going to be 99.9 or 96 if it goes to the trend, or 93.5 if it goes all the way down to the hold level. So the structure is being created even right now, and it has been getting created over the last week to send this price lower. So you've sort of got to look at this from two directions. Will the next candle open and push up to maybe a new top? Yes, it might. Because we did move, or we will move, I should say, one of these other trends from down here back in. So this is moving from January of 2024. It's going to move up to here. Okay, so that gives us a level to retest at 129K. So you'll notice we're basically at the 50% mark of where the retest trend is and where the lowest low is. The question is, which way first? Now, if it goes down first, it's kind of bullish because it's probably going to come all the way back up here. And if there's time in that happening, it will go higher because it will probably want to retest that trend at a higher level. If it goes up first, that means that maybe everyone calling for 150 Bitcoin or above, they might not ever see 150 Bitcoin or above. So this is the kind of structure that's been happening across the higher time frames for a good couple of weeks now. And if we were to sort of just give you a bit of an educational view on how this kind of happens with these reverse trends, is you sort of get a rollover effect when it comes to price. So let's say this area here, which was the previous high for BTC, if we start with our topside trends and we move them up like this, we continue to get above them and we continue to close above them until we don't. So we don't hard close. And then when we fail to accumulate back up to the trend, often then what happens is you go back up to the trend, take the liquidity, and that starts a major correction. And that's what we're seeing down here. So if we start looking at this, the same thing, and we're down here, and we start working our topside trends. Okay. We're there now. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff you got to watch out for. This candle here was the trigger that this was going to happen, and then that was going to go into a bear market. This candle is the trigger that this is going to happen, and then we're going to see some kind of major correction. So question is, do we sweep and then go down, or have we already kind of missed the top and this was the sweep? That's basically what we're looking at. From a monthly perspective on BTC, I would be saying that the month needs to close over 115,707. And if it does that, we create a monthly hold level. If we create a monthly hold level, we can push through this trend and we can continue to move up. And I would say that that is very likely, but just keep in mind how really on the fence of a major rejection that this market actually is right now. Right, so all that aside, let's move on. So, SOL is looking pretty weak on the daily. You'd expect that. It's looking weaker than the overall market. It's looking weaker than BTC. It has to, because it's in a rejection against BTC, and BTC is a major part of the market. So this is all just normal. What it is doing though is it is closing above one trend. It's going to not really lose the other one. It could pump up before the end of the day. If we do get a daily close above 214, that's great. If we get a daily close above 217, that's actually really bullish. But if we close where we are closing, what we're doing is we're hard closing again the break level of 217.867. If we come up and retest that, we'll probably reject. The hold level that's down here at 203 has not been touched. The actual push up on this is more to do with the trends and more to do with the 4-hour hold level that it hit prior to actually getting to the daily, and the fact that it was actually inside a 3-day. And there was a whole bunch of stuff. There's just massive amounts of support that were actually in this area. What is very bearish is the fact that that support is looking like it's just pathetic. It should have a whole bunch of orders in there to push the price up, but it's just a really slow recovery. The top side of a lot of those supports are up around the 226 area. If we can get above the daily downtrend and close one day above the daily downtrend, then we'll be back up targeting this 238. The way I sort of am looking at SOL right now is I can see it easily going down to 180, but at the same time, it only needs to do a couple of things on a daily scale, which is get above this trend and get one more day up, and then it can easily fly up. So I do wonder if it's kind of, if they're just waiting on, I don't know, this ETF news or something. They're just making it look as bad as they can, but then it really only takes 2 candles to make this thing just fly up. So that's pretty much what I'm seeing there. There's not going to be another trend shift in any direction. We are under all the range trends. If you ask me for probabilities on whether it goes up or whether it goes down, if it closes like this, the way higher probability it goes down. And if we close above, say, what are we, 213, 220, if we get above that, we are a positive candle, and it would then open on the top side of the trend, and that would possibly help a little bit, but really you'd want to get above the actual interior downtrend, which is about 214. And like I say, if you want this to be bullish, it really has to close above 217 now. And so, like the last few days, we've been saying we need to be above 226, which was the weekly range trend rejection. We were saying we need to be above 221, because that was another key level at the time. We just keep closing below these key levels and doing it in such a way that we actually then make an even worse lower down resistance level. So yeah, could we keep going? Yep, definitely. And probably will, even if we do have a bit of a pump up. I think we've spent too long here now. Greed of big whales is going to want to open positions into that liquidity, and these hold levels down here, they're sitting there waiting. So yeah, probably will go down. Okay, looking at the 3-day close today. So when you look at this kind of thing, if this was bullish, this 3-day candle would be trying to pull all the way back up to this trend again before close. It's not doing it. What we are going to see on the 3-day time frame is a range trend get introduced, and it's going to be like that. And that then does imply that if we do dump down, we are dumping down into some newly generated support. And we've still got our 3-day trend coming through here. We are breaking the uppermost interior. So typically, when you got a couple of trends in proximity like this, if you close the candle, you get a sudden, fast sort of dump, and that kind of lines up with everything else we just keep seeing recently. So this trend will go. This candle will close most likely under that. Heck, if it gets back up above 235 by the end of the day, well, that's amazing. But it probably won't, and that is what it takes to make this time frame flip bullish. But it's interesting compared to BTC, you see on SOL, they have not created that same 3-day resistance that they did on the 3-day structure for BTC. So what that implies is that if this market reverses, then they're trying to let SOL move up freer and faster once it gets out of the trap that it's in. So if it does move up, it could be an explosive move up because they haven't created that same resistance on the same time frames as what they have on BTC. Okay, so that's range trend down here. So what we want to see is we want it to close above these break levels, which it currently is. So close above the 210.645 levels. And what else we got in there? And we got that hold level here, 210.645. How are they showing up as the same level? Oops, that set off my alert. Am I going crazy? I think I am. They are not the same level, and they are showing up as the same level. I swear TradingView has gone absolutely berserk since we had that dump. The levels in TradingView are really, really, really screwed up. It actually thinks those two lines are the same level. Anywho, as long as it closes over that break level, and let's just say over that hold level, we get this, and if we get this, we could push through there again, hit that kind of double bottom. We could even sweep that down to the trend here, the 202 levels. What else might we have? Everything else on there is pretty good and retested, and then we could bounce from that in the next 3 days back up. And key thing to note, no hold level up here, right? So if we do bounce back up from that, we got the potential of actually having a pretty good bounce. Okay, now just for a little bit of doom and gloom, because we all need that. The really high time frame on SOL is also starting to roll over. It would be very, very nice to see us close the day over the top of this trend. So that level is currently about 214. Funnily enough, key level, a lot of confluence across other time frames. That's where I took a TP yesterday. We had 214 and 217 with the TPs. Never made it to 217, but that is what it is. And this level here at 214, it would be very good to be above that. Okay. And that's mostly just because, once again, we're starting to roll over. Our rollover candle was well, our first rollover candle was this one here, and that led to this liquidity sweep of the previous range, just like we looked at on BTC. And then obviously we did our big rejection from there. But we also created this interior trend, and this is our rollover candle down here, the March candle. And as you can see, we've swept the liquidity above that trend. We're pulling back down under it. If this follows the pattern of a high time frame reversal, then the next levels we're pretty much going to see is the 180s and the 160s. Okay, so just keep in mind it's looking on the lower time frame like we might pull out of this, but yeah, the higher time frame is rolling over. Okay, so and this is just a couple of the other things I'm looking at. So on the weekly, rejection on the weekly has found weekly support. So we want to see the weekly close above the weekly trend. If it pushes down any further and opens the next candle on the other side of the weekly trend, it's pretty much a goner. And this could all be part of that 89-day time frame rolling over. You know, it might just creep its way down, giving people hope to buy the dip and then buy the next dip, then buy the next dip. So just yeah, we want to see the weekly close over this trend. And to be bullish, we want to see this candle retrace, right? So there's kind of a semi bungee cord rule when it comes to candles that dive trends. If you're in a bullish market, they are going to pull back up before the end of the week. And there is a lot of confluence with, there's 3 different time frames that have targets to move to 226. So it's giving me a bit of hope that this is more about time capitulation, and they're just trying to get people to buy the dip, and maybe they'll dip again, and they might just continually screw with people for the next 4 days. But somewhere in that 4 days, they come back up to meet those 226 targets that we have in play on things like the 10-day timeframes, etc. And those timeframes get us back above this weekly trend, and then we bounce off the top side of the weekly trend, and then we move up. And we need either this candle to create a weekly hold level off this previous one, or we need the next candle to close up and create a hold level off the top of this one. It's the only way we really have a chance to break out of the weekly resistance, is to do that over either the next 4 days or the next week after this. But to play it out and be bullish, we want to see us up over 226 before the end of the week, and then we want to see the next week close up over 236. Okay, and to do all that, obviously we've got to consider the monthly, because the monthly plays into that same area. And what you'll notice is that the monthly break level is 234. So really, you want this week to get above 234. Okay, and if it's above 234, in fact, how many days we've got? 6 days. You want the next 6 days to get above 234. That would be very helpful, very bullish, and a good way to basically escape up to this topside trend. And then we can start talking $300 targets or above again. But for now, I'd just say be very, very, very careful with your entries, your liquidity levels. It's pretty choppy, dicey, on the cliff market right now. Okay, so this is the 7-day, which closed yesterday, and this is what I'm looking at to potentially give us that dump. So the hold level has not been touched, so it has to go back to 217.112 to really initiate this rejection. And I can't help but wonder if they're going to open the next candle, or one of these days this week, and they're going to push up here, and then they're going to push down to either the 197 level or the 191 level. But we have the structure in place. Okay, so the only way that this could flip is really, well, it doesn't flip that easily, put it that way. It has to get in the next 6 days over 236. So it's kind of got confluence really with all those other timeframes we're just looking at. we sort of know that the next 3 to 6 days are pretty much the most important days for SOL. If it doesn't get back up over these levels, then really it's just going to be a continuous correction. And will it go down first? Absolutely, it could. Is it going to do it relatively soon? Probably. If you're bullish, you want it to do it soon, because if it waits until one day before weekly close and then has this rejection, you're probably not going to be going up. That's the cold hard truth of it. If it does some kind of rejection off this tomorrow, at least you've got enough days to get back up and close over the weekly and monthly levels. So, and for us to break this downtrend, it created this rejection in the first place, we have to close over this level to create a hold level. So it's really got to be, once again, in that next 6 days for us to get up here and get over these levels. And then we can create the structure we need to break through the top to, continue up. But at the moment, that's the full picture. The lower time frame stuff, let's have a quick look. So we're breaking trends. The hold level hasn't held, so even just things like this 1 hour, it's just on a downwards break. So if this opens the next candle on the wrong side of the trend, then it might drop a little bit further. We've still got a break level down, sorry, we've still got a hold level down here that may catch it at 208. In the next 30 minutes, this thing has to get back up and create a hold level over 212 to then try to break the trend to move to the upside. But we had a range trend coming through here, which it nearly recovered. Then it rejected off the normal trends. It's fallen back below and it's rejected off it now. So pretty much all confluent with the other charts. And let's see what the 4 hours doing. So 4 hours diving. It's not doing too much. Yeah. See, we've got a hold level on the 8 hour. It should be trying to push us up to 218, which has confluence with the hold level on the opposite side. This is typically how you see structure form, just like when you're scalping lower time frames, you see them build these hold candles. You put a fib on the candle, you see it lines up with the hold. What normally happens is it goes into that, then it travels up to the hold, and that's your trade. And you take 1 or 2 of those a day on various low time frames on leverage, and you're retired. But it's as you can see, there's just a lot of sell pressure to stop this from going up, and doing what it's meant to be doing. But it is still pretty bullish if it stays inside this range trend. You just want a hard close inside that range trend again. So we've dived it, we're back up inside of it. Maybe the next candle can perform that push. So some of the lower time frame stuff is looking bearish, but it's also worth pointing out that often they do make price action look bearish, especially as you get close to the close of dailies and stuff like that. And it's all fractal, so they do it with 15-minute candles too. They'll make a 15-minute candle look really bearish for 14 minutes, then 1 minute before it closes, it pushes up. And that gets people jumping into that short early with FOMO because they think, oh, it's going to go, it's going to go, it's going to go, it's going to go. They open the short, the price pushes up. So yeah, there's a lot of psychological action in how candles move, and what I say is that they're just 100% noise until they close. When they close, you know what they want to do. So that is looking bearish, but hey, we've got 1 hour and 27 minutes to go. Okay, let's have a look at SUI. So this is still looking pretty reasonable. I've made more money out of SUI in the last few days than I've made out of SOL. It's been easier, way easier to trade this thing. But it's really just kind of in a nothing place. If it comes down and hits the monthly trend, it's worth adding. Failing that, I think the daily on SUI, yeah, so we had a daily hold, we've hit the daily break, we've created an origin breakout level up here. Oh, sorry, that's hourly. Over on the daily, what are we looking at? Okay, so on the daily, you might get a hold level on the daily. If it closes over 3.3627, I think that is. Is that 29? 29? Yeah, so it's right there now, just teasing. If you get a daily hold level in here, then yeah, you could look to long that. What else are we doing? We're moving the trend on the daily. Oh, that's a bit tricky. That'd be quite risky, actually. Depends where it closes. If it creates like one of those hold levels that's only just fractionally above the candle, the problem is that you're probably going to bounce and just smack into the trend, and then it could come down. If it actually closes up around 3.3 something, 3.39, if it got up around there, then it's probably going to come down from the other side of the trend, hit the hold level, bounce up and do these retests, which is the main swing position I've got is just looking at retests of these dailies at the moment, waiting until the monthly. So we might get that retest tomorrow if it closes at the right level and generates a hold level. From scalping it on the hourly, it's been using things like this trend down here back up to the hold. So, I mean, typically if you take a scalp on a dive, a low time frame dive, or a bounce of a daily trend, you're definitely going to get to the 15-minute hold. Even if they try to suppress the daily, you're probably still going to get there. So just scalping these little levels in here throughout the day has been a decent money maker. So just you can put a candle in here, or the first one was the break level. So down here into the break, or into the trend, up to the break, create a hold, move your line, back to the trend, bounces around for a bit, dives the trend, add to your position. So when you add to your position down here, what you do is you TP what you add back up here and you keep your average down here. And that then allows you to, if it rejects the trend, get stopped out in profit. And if it doesn't, if it gets back above it, then you just TP into the hold. So yeah, this has just been moving along really nicely. So we got so we didn't dive the trend on world. Oh, we did a little bit. Yeah, we did a little dive of the trend on World Liberty Finance, and it went back to the hold. So it went back to, sorry, the backside retest. So if you'd taken that trade yesterday, you would have got the first TP, not the second, not the third. Yeah, well, none of the others really, but you'd still be in profits now, and you could just choose to close the position if you felt like it and move into the new day. But this does look like it's going to open a top trend, and if it opens a top trend, it could probably bounce it, and then it's already tested this level, so it could go up and test it again or move through to one of the next ones up. So that's done what it should have done and what we talked about. ZEUS. Let's see. This is looking promising for the weekly close. It may get back up inside the range trend. If it does and it bounces the top of the range trend, you could probably long it up to this next one. And this being a little shit coin, that's a 20% move, so that's not bad. So keep an eye on that. It's looking like it wants to get back up. And cook. Yep, same thing. Up on top of the trend. Might create a weekly or daily, sorry. Shares a daily. Yeah, this might actually go, if this closes up here above trend with a daily level, you might have to find the daily trend, but if you've watched enough of my videos, you're going to know how to do that. Should we just leave that up to you? And then you can take it up to whatever the daily trend is. Okay. Hype, still below the weekly. Now, one of the guys, we were talking about this one in the Discord yesterday. There is a daily level down here, okay, which is at 38.52. So if it loses the daily range, which hasn't technically lost the daily ranges yet, so it might get back up inside there. But if it does have another dump, and if it loses the daily ranges, then you could look at around that 38.52 to look for an entry and see if you get that. And then failing that, look for the weekly range trend. I've just got an alert set to see if it comes near the weekly. And the other thing to consider with this is just whether it climbs back up inside the weekly trend, in which case you could probably long it, and it should go back up and try to retest the break or retest the topside trend again. So still not really a huge move, but good scalp. And what else? I think, is that us? Yep. I've got a few other tokens there that people have messaged me about, and I might start to add them to the list, but just at the moment I'm just very, very much consumed with trying to make sure that we get this bigger position right on SOL and BTC, because yeah, like I say, it's a very, very critical area, and we're either at a top and we're not going to see higher, we're at a next final potential leg up, in which case maybe that 129 BTC is going to be it, or maybe a push through that, but at the end of the day it's looking like that could be it. Yeah, or the next push up is going to hold, and we want to see it hold on the weekly. We want to see it create that weekly structure, and then maybe we move back into a sustainable trend to the upside. But yeah, that's pretty much those are probably more important right now than some of the little poop coins. But yeah, if you're keen, jump in the Discord. There's other people in there as well who also know how to put lines on charts. So yeah, jump in there and we can look through some of them in between while we wait for trade entries, etc., etc. So yeah, like, subscribe. 489-ish subscribers now. So let's see if we can get over 500, just because it's a nice round number. And then apparently, if we get over 1,000, I might get like 13 cents a month or something for doing these videos. That'd be kind of cool. I could buy a crumb from a chicken tender or something. But yeah, we'll talk again tomorrow. Cheers. Bye.